Well, let's unpack this further with the Director of Research at the South African Clothing and Textile Workers Union, Simon Eppel, who joins us now. Simon, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Well, I've never actually bought anything from Temu or Shein. I've been too nervous to do that. I've got trust issues when it comes to it. But I've got friends who are quite addicted to those platforms, and they report to having a very seamless shopping experience, coupled with the fact that it's low prices, but more importantly, they've got a variety of options. I don't know of any South African outfit that comes close to that, except to say perhaps Takealot, but there's certainly still a price disparity. What has been the impact of that on the local textiles market?
First, Oliver, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to talk to. Look, you point to a really real phenomenon. Nice and easy things are nice and easy. And that's why shopping on these offshore online platforms can seem like a fashionable, exciting experience. They are designed to be. The design is purposeful. It's deliberate. Of course, the other way of looking at that experience is the effect that it has back home in your community, in your nation, etc. So the report that the LSF has received and publicized today says that we've lost about 8,000 jobs in both manufacturing and South African retail as a consequence of these offshore online platforms. That's to date. Let me make that clear. Projecting forward over the next couple of years to 2030, that number could get to about 35,000 jobs lost just in clothing, textile, footwear, leather, in the manufacturing and the retail side. So now if you go into a platform like Temu, you'll see that they're not just selling those products, they're selling all kinds of products, plastic products, storage products, stationery products, etc. So take that 35,000 and just escalate it out across the economy. Effectively, what we're talking about is a smash and grab form of economics. Coming into a country, raiding its coffers, raiding the money of its citizens, and exporting its jobs. And so while it's a really pleasant experience on the front end, really contextually, the effect of that is quite devastating.
Let's talk about the substance of the report, and I think the accuracy of the time frame does matter here. SARS had last year brought to an end a special treaty or a special exemption, so to speak, that existed specifically for Chinese online retailers such as Temu and Shein. And what it simply meant was that consumers didn't have to pay the duties on those products that would otherwise exist. Of course, the economic impact of that had been that it created competition disparities. Talk to me about what the impact has been since SARS had brought that special dispensation to an end, meaning that the imposed duties are now in play. Consumers don't have it as cheap as they used to on these platforms.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. Just a small correction there. That those dispensations didn't exist for the offshore online retailers. They actually existed for the granny, grandpa, auntie, and uncle who used to live overseas and send gifts to their family abroad. And what happened with these new sort of monoliths, these huge monster sized organizations, is they took advantage of that little gap. And they realized, well, if they ship things in small parcels, they can qualify for tax exemptions and import duty exemptions. Now that loophole is closed, and thankfully it's closed, and we see the evidence from various jurisdictions around the world. They've done the same thing. What's some of the impact on that? Well, we are seeing a bit of breathing space in manufacturing. We're seeing some positive sentiment. We're seeing a little bit of relief on jobs. But what other jurisdictions in the world have taught us too, is that they didn't stop there. They've done more. And the reason they've done more is that level playing field is not actually level. So it might be starting to be level on duty. But take, for example, the enormous amount of money that these platforms spend on ads. A colleague mentioned today that if you go and put any retailer down on a product in your Google search, who'll come up first is not the retailer you're looking for, but one of these folk.
Yeah.
And why do they do that? Because they outspend on search engine optimization, etc. So the playing field is not level. They've thrown enormous amounts of money into dominating the advertising and the line of sight. They get the eyeballs. They dominate in terms of price through the pricing models that they have, including, really predatory forms of behavior
But
within
if we were
their
to
own
make
supply
it,
chains.
Simon, if we were to impose some form of regulatory restrictions on these online retailers, it doesn't solve the local economy problem that we have. The textile industry didn't get decimated by Temu and Shein. The decimation thereof had began at least a decade and a half earlier than that. If we look at fast fashion outlets that still operate in brick and mortar, they too will fill up that gap if we were to make it more difficult to buy from Shein or Temu. How do we begin to solve the problem of competitiveness of local retailers? Because most fast fashion brands aren't owned by South African outlets.
Okay, so I think a really fair question, because it's one thing to take the defensive position. It's another one to look for the offensive opportunity. So I think I would differ with you. There are some serious impacts on those or from those retailers on the local market, including pushing down pricing. We're seeing an escalation of informalization of businesses as a result of the price distortion from these kinds of retailers. But let me go to the flip side of that, which is, I think, the rightful observation of yours. What are we going to do about it? And here I think the report from the LSF actually has some really useful indications. These companies are successful not just because of the predatory nature of some of what they do, but also because of some of the smart logistics that they have, the way they network the retail front, the customer. They use data and they feed that through back into their manufacturing chains. They've got some really sophisticated supplier development that they do, some incentivization of suppliers. They manage to ease some of the costs of their suppliers through leveraging bulk and volume and cost to ship quite quickly some of the big cost items like fabric. And so there's a network of lessons that they have, and those are things that we should be learning. Those are things that we should be adopting and adapting towards. So, I like the framing that you have. It's not all a bad story. There's actually opportunity that we should learn from.
Yeah, it looks like a really nice scarf that you're wearing there, Simon. Where did you buy it? Temu, Shein?
No, I knew that question was going to come. That's a manga scarf. It's made in Plettenberg Bay.
Just kidding. Thank you so much for your time and your insight, Simon. Really do appreciate it. Yep, that's Simon Eppel, Director of Research at the South African Clothing and Textile Workers Union, giving us a deep dive into that report. Of course, that is a very extravagant number. 7.3 billion rand could do a lot for the local economy.